Welcome to the Employer Blueprint Podcast, where leaders can develop their skills for building more efficient businesses and high-performing teams. I'm your host, Kyle Gorman. I read an alarming study the other day that I want to share. It says that only 7% of employees fully understand their company's goals and what's expected of them in order to achieve their goals. That is staggering. It is truly an alarming idea. Now, I'm going to flip this on its side a little bit for you as we talk about this, because I know many of you right now are thinking, nope, not me. Not me. In our company, everybody knows our goals. Now, if you aren't thinking that, if you're saying, yeah, that's probably us. My company, we probably don't know the goals. Our employees don't know the goals. They don't know where they're going. Well, then that's something that needs to be addressed. But who I really want to talk to right now are those that are saying, no, my employees definitely know their goals. Here's what I want to encourage you to do. I want you to go ask them about it. Set up a one-to-one meeting and ask them, hey, what are our company goals and how do you fit into those goals? What's expected of you to help us achieve those goals? And here's the reason I want you to ask that question. Because when the study shows that only 7% of employees fully understand the goals, I would argue that more than 7% of all companies are communicating those goals to their employees. So the issue is not necessarily that the goals aren't being communicated. The issue is that employees are not understanding or receiving or really hearing or processing what those goals are. So think about that. It's not necessarily that only 7% of companies are communicating the goals to them, but communication is a two-way street. And so the person on the receiving end has to understand exactly what is being communicated to them. And I would argue that the real issue is that you as a company are likely communicating your goals, but they don't understand it. It's not resonating. It's not relating. We haven't put it in a way that people can understand, okay, so this is what I have to do. This is what I have to achieve for the company to reach those goals, and here is why it's important. So my point simply being that for those of you that are sitting here saying, we communicate our goals and our employees definitely know our goals, why don't you validate that? Why don't you confirm that? Go and talk to them about it and say, what are some of our company goals? Now, ideally, what I would encourage you to do is have your goals limited down to 3 to 5 primary goals that you're focused on, because otherwise it starts to get too overwhelming for your employees. But if it's really just 3 or 5 goals, your employees should be able to understand what those are. They should be able to repeat those back to you. And if they can't, and you think that you've been communicating them, then it's time to communicate them in a different way, because people obviously just aren't getting it. This study really concerned me, because what I hear in my world is people saying, well, we're off track, we're not hitting goals, we're not hitting our accomplishments, we're not growing, the company has plateaued. And then I look at a study like this and say, well, potentially 7% of employees even understand what the goals are and how they fit into that. I can understand why the company's plateaued. I can understand why you're not excelling. I can understand why people are not performing well. But as with so many things in our role as leaders, we can't just put that on the employees. We have to look and say, what are we doing to help solve this problem? What are we doing to communicate properly to our team? And it may be that some of your employees understand the goals, but not all of them. Well, then you need to make sure those employees understand that the goals resonate with them and that they understand how they fit into this big picture of the organization. One of the first key principles that I coach in leadership and management specifically is defining roles and expectations. And that's exactly what this study goes back to. If we haven't properly defined roles and expectations within the organization, people will find their own path. People will create a reality of their own if we don't set the reality up for them. And so if we have certain goals, if we have expectations, if we have roles and tasks that we expect people to do, but we don't communicate that properly, people will create their own reality. People will create their own goals. They will create their own tasks. They will create their own targets, their own metrics, their own key performance indicators. That way they know they are excelling. They know in their mind they are doing well. But if we are not calibrating to that and helping them understand what we expect of them, what the company expects of them, what is needed of them to excel, then they may be headed in the wrong direction. And in reality, it's not their fault. It's likely our fault as leaders. It's your fault for not clearly communicating, for not clearly defining for them the role and the expectation. And then once we define that, we have to go back to it. We have to calibrate to that. We have to talk to them about that. We can't just let it go and say, well, we talked about this last year, and now we're going to sit down here at annual review time and talk about it again. We have to constantly be going back to that, constantly be talking to people about what's expected, what their role is, how they're doing, positive reinforcement, making adjustments where it's needed. And that's how we accomplish goals. That's how we get somewhere. So if you believe that your team knows the goals of your company, sit down and ask them. Just confirm for yourself. And if they do, that's wonderful. That's great. If they don't, you've got some work to do. If you don't have goals set up for your company at this point, then you need to take some time to do that, like real soon. Because without goals, we're just sprinting with our head down. We don't know where we're going. We're going nowhere fast. So take some time this week to do that. If you have any questions about what to do, about the conversations, about how to ask these questions of your employees, let me know. I'd love to hear about this. If you have successes or feedback on how that's gone, let me know that too. I'd love to know how those conversations have gone and what we've learned from it. Thanks for joining me this week on the Employer Blueprint Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show to receive the latest episodes. And if you would like to connect with me directly with questions or topics you'd like to hear more about, you can find me on LinkedIn as Real Kyle Gorman. And until next time, make it a great day.